Welcome, everyone, to the Asian Voices Radio podcast, where you'll find real Asian American conversations, including topics and subjects you were too afraid to ask your Asian parents. I'm your host, Sasha Fu, and we have a special guest with us today. Her name is Alexa Khan, and she wears many hats as an actor, a filmmaker, film producer, and a business entrepreneur. Welcome, Alexa. I am so impressed with your resume. To let people know a little bit about your background, you were born and raised in Mongolia, and you came to the United States, to Los Angeles specifically, as an exchange student at the tender age of 16. What an adventure. You attended university and graduated here, and then you went on to a career in the financial world, which is quite a feat in and of itself. But you've told me that your first and foremost love was always performing and acting. And as a result, in 2014, you made a big leap. You left the financial world to focus exclusively on entertainment. What a bold step that was. You've gone on to found your own production company, Three Flames Pictures. That was in 2017. And your company has had a lot of success already, producing several films, including a movie called The Steed, which was actually filmed and set in Mongolia. And it was a submission to the 2019 Oscar competition. Alexa, so much to boast about. I don't know exactly where to start, but most people don't act, produce, and start two entertainment-related companies in the space of 5 or 6 years. Where do you find your motivation, and where do you find your energy and inspiration?
Oh, thank you so much for the really lovely introduction. I'm very humbled, and thank you so much for having me here. And to your question, inspiration, it's something that I've been wanting to do. And you know, when you start certain things, one thing happens after the other, and when you kind of like let it out in the universe and pray on it, it just sometimes comes to you. So it was kind of many things just unfolded, and it was coincidental. And as you start working on things, more doors open up, and then just took one step at a time, and went through the doors that was open to me.
I want to talk a little bit about the inspiration behind the movie The Steed. Most people in the United States would be hard pressed to say, if I said, hey, can you name a film that has a Mongolian theme or was filmed in Mongolia? I think most people would draw a complete blank. They'd say, I don't know. But your film may change that, because it has a sort of universal appeal. The Steed is I guess, a very emotional story that I think a lot of people can relate to. Tell us more about what The Steed is about and why you think this film has already been so well received.
Thank you so much for that. So Three Flames Pictures, as you said, was established in 2017, and we wanted to start with a film that says something about our culture. And I was born and raised in Mongolia, as you said, and my business partner also lives in Mongolia. He's a very famous director and actor. His name is Ibi Gambold. And then our other business partner, who's a founder, Trevor Morgan Doyle, he's a longtime film producer here. So the three of us sat down, and we were thinking of films to start our company and kickstart. And Ibi came up with the idea of making The Steed. And The Steed is actually based on a very famous poem in Mongolia. And it's something that we learn and something that we memorize in school. And so he wanted to kind of pay homage to that and make that into a film, turned it into a screenplay, and then we worked on the story together. And that's how The Steed came about. But it took us 3 years to complete that film, because it was it was a huge undertaking with 3,000 horses on set, many people from Kazakhstan, Russia, China, America going there. I mean, Trevor was living in, yurt, which is called ger, for a month and a half out in the middle of nowhere. So it was an adventure itself. So it took 3 years to make it. But when people think of Mongolians, they always think about, Genghis Khan is the first thing. And the second thing is just this, big, strong men with wielding swords and killing people. And our culture is not really shown a lot. And the Steed actually shows the nomadic lifestyle, how people are, and how people are so connected with the earth and the animals around it. So it was more of kind of showcasing the tradition back in the day and what our culture is all about. So that was the main reason behind the Steed.
Now, what are some of the challenges? Your main character, the little boy, wasn't a trained actor. How did you find him?
It's a very interesting story. So our director, Ibi Gambold, he casted many, he was auditioning many actors who were at that age, around 10 and 11. And he was having a very hard time. And so he kept telling us, we can't shoot yet because we haven't found the boy yet. And so his family members kept asking, his uncle kept asking him to audition his son, who's my director's nephew. And he kept saying, no, this is a serious work. Not yet, not yet. And at the end, he said, okay, fine, I'll just audition him. And then as soon as he gave the hardest scene, he just nailed it. He knocked it out of the park. And Ibi was so impressed, gave him another hard scene. He just knocked it out. So that was it. And that was his first acting gig. He's not a trained actor. He's actually a nomad who lives in the middle of, in the countryside. So he just fit the role.
That is a fascinating story. Really fascinating. Now, my question to you is a little bit about why. I mean, I can understand the emotional pull of wanting to take a story that you grew up with and translating that for the screen. Has it resonated with audiences outside of Mongolia? What kind of feedback, what kind of responses do you get from non-Mongolian viewers?
It was amazing, actually. So the very first film festival that officially selected the Steed was in Oldenburg Film Festival in Germany. Such an amazing film festival with all the filmmakers come together and then just celebrate cinema itself. So it was amazingly well received. So Trevor and I traveled to Oldenburg, and then Ibi came from Mongolia. The three of us got united again after the set. And then so we were just, going there and attending the Q&As and then just watching, just being at every single screening. And it was amazing. It was received so well. People will cry and come up to us and just say, I just connected so much with the story. And that's when we also realized that we were really able to universally appeal, because it's about bond of, a human being to an animal, and in a larger sense, just us connecting to the earth. And also it's about love, it's about respect, and it's about, being loyal to your dream and being loyal to your Mother Earth. So in that sense, it was widely relatable and also very well received. So in Germany and in San Diego Film Festival, which it won the best film, and then in Goa, I was officially selected, and we also won a selected film, Ore Film Festival in Colorado, and many more. So it was just very well received. Belfast in Ireland. And so in Asian and in European culture and in the US, it was very relatable, is what we were told.
That's amazing, and it's really encouraging. Do you see any more projects in the near future that are going to be using Mongolian themes or Mongolian actors?
Oh, yes. So it's, so our company is like 2/3 Mongolian. Actually, it could be like 100, because sometimes Trevor can be more Mongolian than I am. Like he can live in the woods, in the countryside, with no complaints. I can't do that. Many Mongolians will not like that, but to hear that. But in any case, we are the next project that we're working on actually is something. It's a series. It's basically like Game of Thrones meets the Viking, and so it's some historical, but mostly fiction, and it depicts a story before the army of the Mongolian Empire, so pre Genghis Khan, and so that's already basically 97% done, and we're getting into post production right now, so that should be coming out fairly soon.
I want to switch to the business side of the filmmaking industry. Let's say you have a wonderful idea, you want to take it to the screen, but there are the obstacles of finding the money and finding a way to have it distributed once it's finished. Tell us about your experience with that, and what is your advice to young content creators who are thinking, "Oh my gosh, how am I going to make this a reality?"
Yes, and that is the biggest obstacle as independent filmmakers is finding money, because people have great ideas sometimes, right? And so we've had many challenges finding money, and just just the middle of the process, sometimes you lack of certain things, and then you have to find more money in the distribution, etc. So I mean, the main thing is obvious that the story is very important. The script is very important. It has to appeal to, whether if it's niche or whether if it's a wide audience, it's very important. But what we do is actually kind of, we, throughout, even before creating our company, Trevor and I have met a lot of distribution companies, and Trevor had a lot of experience in distribution. So we've always went actually the backwards way. So we would consult with distribution companies first and see what they're looking for out there, what is being sold, and what's really good. And based on that, you kind of you know work on a story or work on a genre that works, but still able to portray your message, because as a company we would like to bring cultural awareness, bridging the gap between the US and other cultures who are that are underrepresented, etc. So but we'd like to keep it within certain genre and still able to be true to our value of our company. So that's kind of how we go by. And then with that, it makes it a little bit easier to raise money, because at the end of the day, every investor will ask, how am I getting my money back? How am I getting my money back? And so so if we have a distribution that is, and there's no guarantee of distribution also, but if there's distribution that is that is kind of, we know that that it increases the chance, then investors are open to it. And with us it's been different. It could be individual investors, it could be companies, or production companies who would like to get into different territories. So that's where all of our fundings were. So I would just say my advice is, try to reach out to distribution companies, and you can ask them, what are you looking for, what are the genre, what's selling, and you can find distribution companies of a genre that you want, and then ask them what's going on, and then from there you can come up with certain stories. And then if you have scripts, right, and then you can even ask them to review it. Some do, some don't, but I would just say that is an easier way to go by from the business perspective, right? Some people might say, wow, that is not true to your art, but from the business perspective, that is something that I would advise.
So it's interesting that you, even though you started as an actor, this augmented understanding of the way the money part of this business works has given you a little bit of a competitive edge in a sense, hasn't it?
It definitely did, because with films, and just any business, finance has a lot to do with it, whether we like it or not. So I got into the industry from the acting side, but I couldn't help myself but to be attracted to the business side. And I was seeing how the budget is going, how the return on investment will go, how the distribution works. And the next thing you know, I was just in the midst of it, calculating everything. And it was just like a natural thing that I drew into it. So it definitely gave me a competitive edge. But raising money is just whether if you had the experience or not, it's still raising money. So um, even if you don't, it's the same thing. You ask and present, right? So whether if you don't have the financial background or not, you can still do it if you wish to, because it really boils down to the film, and then if they can make their money back.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, I guess that speaks to people having enough of a commitment and a passion to see that their project gets finished, or
Hmm.
accomplished, or gets into the right hands.
Right.
We've seen Hollywood recently make a pledge about diversity and inclusion and equality. From where you stand, do you think that those decisions about who to hire, what projects get their nod, have you seen a difference? Have you seen a more expansive attitude about who we want to bring into the mix here?
Yes. So I definitely think it helped a lot. And you know, when you turn on the TV now, when you see commercials, you see a lot of diverse faces, right? A lot of Asian faces. And unfortunately, with the Asian hate, I think it also helped. And then not only that, also just as Asians, it made us realize that we need to really unite and come together and make things together. And so I think that also motivated us to do better, to do more, to really push each other up. And so that is something that I definitely noticed on both from, inclusivity level, but at the same time from just our perspective, just us coming together, right? So like Asia Society, I've been in many of those events. They have the Asian Women Initiative, and even Asian Cultural Media Alliance also is very proponent of Asian media. So I think it just pushed us even further to do things better and really strive for more. So I think in that sense, in the broader sense, it definitely made a big difference from both sides.
And what groups are you involved with in terms of like trying to build those bridges or that sense of unity and cohesion?
Definitely. So I'm one of the board of directors at Chinese Chamber of Commerce in Los Angeles. And so that gave me a lot of voice as well. And then I'm in the advisory board of Asian Cultural Media Alliance, definitely an amazing group that helps just all filmmakers and Asian voices. And Asia Society is also a big proponent of just Asians coming together. So those are the three places that I definitely a part of, and then try to follow it up. And it just unity itself is very, very important, and coming together. And like you said before, it was just divided amongst different ethnic backgrounds, but now they are coming together and they are excited about working. And I sure am excited. And our company is very excited about working on more projects that is, encompassing many, many different cultures in the AAPI community.
In fact, you were talking about a project you just completed on deadline, of course, for the Lunar New Year. And this was an intensive project. There were, a lot of challenges involved in that, right?
So Chinese, part of being Chinese Chamber of Commerce, and it's a great place actually. Even though I'm Mongolian, they're very inclusive. So I'm in the board of director, and being that our company Three Flames Pictures is the uh, part of my company, and Trevor Doyle is actually a member of Chinese Chamber as well. So when the 123rd Lunar Golden Dragon Parade that is supposed to happen in Los Angeles Chinatown. It's the biggest and the longest running Lunar New Year outside China parade. And it had to go virtual because of the recent surge of Omicron. So then Chinese Chamber of Board of Directors turned to me because I
Mm-hmm.
have my film company and media company. So then Trevor Doyle and I just talked, and we had a month, and we just said, you know what, let's make something. And we wanted to do an animation. He said, let's talk about and let's tell the story from the golden dragon parade's eyes. So the whole story is the eye of the golden dragon itself.
Mm.
So that was very inspiring, and him and I just talked and came up with an outline, gave it to our writer, who's a very talented Mongolian writer, Bishrel Mashbat, and he wrote it in 3 days. We got sponsored by
Oh
Department
my
of
gosh.
Cultural Affairs in Los Angeles, and we also got sponsored by Guild attorneys and Troy Guild attorneys and Preferred Bank. So yeah, and our animators took it and they just hand drew everything. So there were 18 characters, 120 moves. They got it done in 2 weeks, edited it, and then we had an amazing award-winning state champion speaker and writer poet Howard Chow from San Francisco writing the poem, came to Los Angeles, and we recorded it with a very talented singer Marl in Chinese American Museum, Japanese American Museum, and we talked about the Asian American history in the U.S., which started in 1600s. And then the whole program was very, it touched on the AAPI hate crime, inclusivity, and then also at the end, all the Asian voices came together and greeted. And so, we had Korean, Japanese, Indonesian, Vietnamese, Mongolian, and Chinese people greeting Happy Lunar New Year. So it was a very inclusive, let's unite together, together we're stronger message of celebration of Lunar New Year. So we got that done in like 3 weeks. And so it was very exciting.
Oh my gosh. Where can we see this? Is it online?
Yes, so it's on Facebook at LA Chinese Chamber. It's on the Facebook, and then or it's at Three Flames Pictures YouTube channel. And the program's the event's name is Through the Eye of the Dragon. So you can look that up, and if you type it, it's there. But at the end of the show, the links can be also available. I'll send it to you.
Okay, that's great. That sounds great. I can't wait to see it.
Mhm.
As now a successful filmmaker and with a very strong and thriving production company, I imagine you get pitches from all kinds of people. How do you and your partners decide what you're looking for in a project? You alluded to this earlier. You said something about the values that you look for. What are the things that make the most impression for you? What does the project have to have before you say, yes, this is something we really want to do?
Right. So the story has to have a meaning, right? There's an underlying meaning, is something that we look for, and then also just also initial funding is something very important. So that is something that we look for because we can't work on a project that doesn't have any funding. It has to have an initial funding, and also project that has meaning. So that is something that we look for.
On a personal note, Alexa, you moved here at the tender age of 16. As I said, you were separated from your parents and your family in Mongolia. It was kind of a rough period. And in fact, the Steed, with its theme of a boy separated from his beloved horse over time and distance, actually kind of mirrored what was going on with you living here in the United States. Can you tell us a little bit more about that period and why the making of the Steed was kind of a love letter to your family?
Yes. So it was kind of a sensitive topic as I was just growing up here because my plan was to go back to Mongolia as soon as I was done with school. And then I got into UBS Financial Services, which is a very prestigious financial firm. And at the time, I just thought that that's very lucky. And then eventually, and I also met my husband, and then I got married, and then I have kids. So missing my home is always part of me. And that's one of the reasons why the production company is partially Mongolian, and we do a lot of business in Mongolia, is because of I loving my culture and just bridging that. So when the Steed portrays the horse who's left the country and kind of just yearning to go back, it was really relatable for me because it's like I've returned through the film with the horse, but I'm still here. But it's kind of like connecting the two cultures is something that that I was really happy about, because I felt like it connected us, even though we're still physically apart.
And just finally, I know now you're a mother of two children. How do you think you're going to be able to raise them as American kids, but yet still have a great respect and love for their Mongolian roots?
Yes, and that's a challenge, right? Because we're in the US, the culture is in the US, and we have very little Mongolians here. And so, I speak to my daughter in Mongolian. I try to speak to my son in Mongolian, but he doesn't understand it so well. So, um, and they know that I do business in Mongolia. And so they are very exposed to the films that I'm doing. And we do go back to Mongolia a lot. So it's just something that I want them to grow up aware of the culture and know the culture, but I also respect their choices of and then interest. But it is something, it is important that they know the culture well, and then language, because I know one day they will say, why didn't you push me even further? Because I hear that all the time from people who grew up here. So so
Right.
yeah, so I do my best.
For people like me who,
Right.
yeah, I can relate to that because I'm a child of Chinese immigrants, and I wish I had more fluency in Chinese, in Mandarin Chinese. I often wish that my parents had insisted that we learn Mandarin and be good at it. So I understand where you're coming from. Well, Alexa, thank you so much for sharing your experiences here in the United States as someone who is successful and thriving as a filmmaker, as an actor, and also as a mother of two children. I'm impressed by the scope and scale of what you've achieved here, and I wish you much continued success. I bet, you wake up some days, I'm sure, and you say, I can't believe this is my life.
Yes, thank you so much. And it's not always roses, right? It's difficult. Sometimes I still look back to my days in steady paycheck and say, wow, that was nicer. And going after your dreams is not always easy. Sometimes you think you'll have freedom to do everything and anything you want, and sometimes, yes, that freedom actually gives you the freedom to work every day, all day, weekends and nighttime. So, you do have to have boundaries.
Alexa, I'd like to ask if you would like to share with our listeners some websites or social media platforms where we can learn more about you and your work.
Yes. So our company's Instagram or website is www.threeflamespictures.com. That is our company website. And my personal is on Instagram. It's at Alexa KHN, Alexa Khan. And then my business partner would be Trevor Doyle. So that would be at TM Doyle 45.
Great. Excellent. Thank you so much, Alexa. If you have any suggestions for future guests or topics, well, we'd love to hear from you. Also, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, as well as follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Asian Voices Radio is produced by Asian Culture and Media Alliance, a nonprofit that empowers our API community with a voice through media arts. If you'd like to support our program and make a donation, please visit us at AsianVoicesRadio.com. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. I'm your host, Sasha Fu. Please join us next week for another exciting and thought-provoking Asian Voices radio show. Until then, take care, everyone.